we find out how the tariff hikes by Eskom will affect the consumer, and that's with the help of Patrick Craven, national spokesperson for COSATU. Patrick, thank you so much for making your way to our headquarters to speak to us today. I'd just like to get your perspective on the Eskom debacle. We do understand that increased tariffs and additional costs will hamper the consumer's pocket quite adversely, but are we seeing that COSATU is liaising a lot better with the government now following this particular cause? And if so, what are you saying?
Well, good evening. First of all, we're saying that this tariff increase in and of itself is way too much. But it comes on top of a series of massive increases, and we've calculated that the increase must be around 150% over just a few years. And this is putting an enormous strain, first of all, on individual consumers, families who are already struggling with the increased prices of other things, like the fuel levy. But even more seriously, and I think particularly for your viewers, we think it could have a very, very serious effect on the economy, because electricity plays a big part in virtually every company. And the tariffs are a major part of their outgoings. And we believe that these increases are so big, especially if they're allowed to get the extra one they've now called for, which will take it to 25%. This could throw a lot of businesses out of commission and lead to a lot of job losses and lead to an even worse economic crisis of low growth, high unemployment, rising poverty than we have already. And so we're saying there must be a better way in which to solve this problem. And we hope that as soon that the inquiry into Eskom will get going as quickly as possible, and that it will first of all find out what the real core problem of Eskom is, because there's no obvious reason why Eskom, after 7 years since the first crisis, has been unable to resolve anything. And we now have yet another crisis, and we cannot accept a situation where it is simply passed on to the shoulders of the consumer. We must tackle this in a more holistic way and see Eskom as a vital, essential public service to be funded by government or by other means. And in particular, we particularly dislike the idea that because rating agencies who are not elected to run this country say that Eskom is now junk, then they can't even borrow money, which is totally unacceptable. There has to be a better way, and in the meantime, there must be a moratorium on these increases on the backs of consumers.
Patrick, I'd like to get your perspective. You've painted an overall picture, obviously, that the hikes will increase or rather result in sluggish economic growth, putting more pressure on the consumer. You represent COSATU. Do you think that we'll find that some of your affiliates will be a little bit more stern with regard to their wage negotiations, especially in the upcoming talks with regard to wages coming forward, evidently because they'll be under pressure?
I'm sure negotiators will not be in any way intimidated by talk of Eskom's financial problems, because whoever else is responsible, it certainly isn't the workers in Eskom who should have to pay an additional price, because remember, they're consumers as well. And if in addition to having to pay a lot more for electricity, they're told they can't have a decent wage increase, then we will support them completely in whatever action they decide to take.
Patrick, thank you so much for your time today and for joining us at our headquarters. That was Patrick Craven, national spokesperson for COSATU.